Good evening all. Welcome back to All For United WFC. It's a bit sad, isn't it? We've only got 3 more of these left to do this season. Well, 2 after this one. Previews and things like that getting towards the end of the season. As we've seen today in the WSL, news is breaking by the hour. It seems if you're following, and not just in the WSL, there's been so much news around kind of women's football and things like that. So we've got a lot to get into. You can see you've got the usual Barry with me and Keris as well. I can't remember the last time Keris you came on. I know you're really busy at the moment with, with lots of deadlines and all these
Uni's
things.
Been absolutely destroying me, and yet I'm still going to games, three away games out of 4 weeks on the trot, but it is what it is at this point.
Priorities. It's got to be done. And as you can see, we've got our debutant for the channel. Beth, thank you so much for coming on. You're kind of going to be our Liverpool rep for the season. If people don't know or haven't seen your Twitter and things like that, if you just want to, I guess, introduce yourself to the channel and to people who may not have seen your work online.
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all. But yeah, I'm a women's football writer for Reach. So Reach own a number of publications. So The Mirror, the Manchester Evening News, the Liverpool Echo. So I sort of write across all of those. All things WSL, Lionesses, any sort of big women's football story, we aim to be covering it. So that's sort of where I'm at. But I'm based on Merseyside, so I've seen a lot of Liverpool this season and over the last couple of seasons. So yeah, hopefully I can give a little bit of insight on that.
No, for sure. I'm going to come straight back to it because it's already been mentioned in the chat quite a few times. Wednesday night. How? Obviously, you were there. How did Liverpool end up winning that game? Because I think we were just chatting backstage. Obviously, Chelsea go 1-0 up. We're kind of pretty much expecting this to be a usual Chelsea kind of dominating performance after that. And even when Chelsea levelled it quite a couple of times towards the end, I think, yeah, Chelsea would probably go on and win this. How did Liverpool go on and end up winning that game?
Yeah, it was bonkers. I mean, probably the game of the season. I think, certainly that second half, 6 goals. It was just incredible. It's hard to believe really that Chelsea went into half-time leading that game. And as you said, Aggie Beaver-Jones gave Chelsea the lead inside 9 minutes. And you're thinking this is going to be like, this could be 4, this could be 5. Liverpool got hammered when they went to Stamford Bridge earlier in the season. So you're sort of anticipating maybe a similar thing. And obviously Liverpool did incredibly well to sort of rally and come back and not only come back once, but a number of occasions that Chelsea managed to level up the game and Liverpool kept finding a way, and that the set pieces ultimately made the difference. I think it's the first time that Chelsea have ever conceded from 2 set pieces in a game, let alone 3. So I know Emma Hayes wasn't too happy about that. Spoke to her after the game and was obviously really frustrated with the manner of the defeat. But I think she had to concede that Liverpool probably on the balance deserved it. I think obviously Chelsea had more of the ball and things like that. But I think there's been occasions this season and last season where Liverpool have got big results. Away against Manchester United, away against Arsenal, against Chelsea at Prenton Park last season, where it's almost felt like they've had a little bit of the rub of the green and they've been quite lucky to come away with the 3 points. But actually on this occasion, I thought they really, they executed the game plan to perfection. They made the most of Marie Herbinger's corner deliveries, which are just probably the best in the league, I've got to say. I think she's the first WSL player to assist 3 times from a corner in one game. So they made the most of that and made Chelsea look as uncomfortable as I've seen anyone make them, really. So yeah, huge win for Liverpool. Huge confidence builder for them ahead of Sunday, and yeah, obviously a huge blow for Chelsea.
I was going to say, you're not wrong when you're talking about the games against the top 5. I think Soccer was tweeting earlier, Liverpool have picked up 9 points, which is only 1 less than Chelsea against the top 5 this season. I don't really want to go through how many United have picked up against the top 5 because it's right down the bottom with 1, if people haven't already seen it. So not great. Before I come back to you, Beth, Keris, obviously, and Barry following it, does seeing Liverpool on Wednesday night make you more nervous than you potentially were before this one? Or maybe a little bit, I guess, more confident the fact that Liverpool have had quite a big game, quite an intense game on Wednesday night, and maybe feel the effects of that on Sunday?
I think there's 2 things for me. The first is that obviously on the face of it, it makes you nervous seeing them play that well against a side like Chelsea. However, we did also beat Chelsea a few weeks ago. I doubt anyone's on his forgotten that, but just in case anyone had and needed a bit of a lift. And also there's, like you say, there's the tiredness factor. There's the fact that they've played midweek, whereas we've been fortunate enough to have a few days off. And there's also the fact that I think potentially what played into the defeat back in, I believe, December, I think there might have been a little bit of complacency in there. So having, we had last season, we beat Liverpool, what was 5-0 or something like that at LSV, last day of the season at Prenton Park, beat them 3-0. So I think in a way, getting rid of that complacency could actually be quite beneficial, as we've had that very timely reminder of how good their team is and what they can do this season. So yeah, hopefully that will it'll work in our favour rather than against us.
Yeah, I guess, like Kerry says, really, I think you would have to go with that. It does make you a little bit nervous, the fact that Liverpool have gone out there and performed as well as they have all the way to the final whistle, just when Chelsea might have thought they'd rescued a point. It's gone from them. But I was going to say what Kerry said. Absolutely. We did beat Chelsea as well. And I think from our point of view, we shouldn't necessarily be nervous. I think for me, the thing that actually this has stoked is that in the previous few years, the United-Liverpool game hasn't had a significance in terms of where the league table is. So the men's game obviously has the massive rivalry that hasn't seeped in over onto the women's side properly yet, because Liverpool and United have been so apart. United haven't had a team for so long. We've been in the Championship. Liverpool disappeared for a bit whilst we were in there, and then they came back again. So we're now in a situation where they're actually battling. We're right up there, and it's who's going to finish fourth. And although Mark Skinner's referred to it all as cup finals, 3 cup finals, which I'm not going to lie, that's ground my gears just a little bit, because it's really not. Nobody's getting a prize winning fourth. But, whatever floats his boat. I think the big thing for me there is now a significance, because just because of the history that the two clubs have had, you just wouldn't want to finish below Liverpool. And I think Liverpool would really like to finish above Man United, because it just gives them that extra bit of bragging rights. So I think, if anything, it's just made it a little bit more tasty, hasn't it? And we all like seeing Chelsea lose. So, it was hilarious. Can't lie.
I was caught in two minds watching the game on Wednesday. I was like, this isn't really good for our battle for fourth. But at the same time, then I don't really want City win the league either. But then it is nice to see a different winner rather than Chelsea.
Is there really a good choice for winning the league?
It felt like it was literally like there was no good choices. It was like, I want Chelsea to lose so they don't win the league. But then that also means that Liverpool win this game, and it also means that City win the league. So really, in many ways, that's the worst thing I can imagine.
I'm not being funny. Even if you look at the teams above United or around United, your choices are Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, and none of those are good ones, really, are they? That's like, do you want arsenic, rat poison, or, Minan soup? Which would you like? It's not.
I don't know which I'd choose out of that, to be fair. I don't want to go down that road. I want to come back to...
Don't pick Minan soup, mate. She's dead. It's terrible. It's been out for years. Not a good one.
That's not something I thought I'd hear 8 minutes into the show. There we go. I want to come back to talk about things like that, because there's a lot of conversation around that. But Beth, I want to throw it back to yourself in terms of Liverpool season, because obviously there's been a massive improvement, obviously, from Liverpool last season to this season. What have you made of Liverpool's season overall? And do you think this was expected with the signings that were made? Obviously, Matt Beard, earlier on in the season, spoke very highly about the Liverpool squad that he had and so on. Do you think this is about where Liverpool expected to be this season, or is it maybe, I guess, a bit overachievement? And also that kind of secondary question that we spoke about backstage in terms of that, maybe that FA Cup run, maybe a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I think in terms of league position, I think they've maybe overachieved to an extent, but you almost feel reluctant to say that because of who Liverpool are as a club, as more broadly, the men's side of things. The women's team should never have been allowed to be relegated to the Championship in 2020, and therefore I suppose any praise that you give them now has to come with a little bit of a caveat of a club like Liverpool should be having their women's team competing for the league's top honours. So in one sense, you can't view it as an overachievement. But I think in terms of where the squad were last season to now, I think it maybe is a little bit of an overachievement. I think, they obviously finished 7th last season, which, considering that was the first season back in the WSL, was probably quite an impressive return. And they got some big results last season as well. But I definitely think sort of top 6 was the aim. And now, obviously, I think, 5th is the minimum that they're probably going to finish. So I think in terms of the league, they're well on course for where they want to be and pushing the top teams. And I think, you mentioned the points that they've picked up from the teams above them. I don't think they probably anticipated that this season. I think that the main word that speaking to the players, speaking to Matt Beard, that is really important going forward now is consistency, because, you mentioned the FA Cup. Liverpool had a golden chance to get through to the semi-finals. They had Leicester at home in the quarterfinals, a team, several places below them in the table, and a team who've become a little bit of a bogey team for Liverpool over the last couple of seasons. They've beat them in different competitions on a number of occasions. So, they lose that game, and it's a really, really tough one to take, because they would have had a real chance then going into that semi-final to at least get to the final, and that would have been nice, to get to Wembley and things like that. So yeah, it's been a mixed season in one sense, I suppose, because I think there was definitely the potential to get to Wembley, but overall I think it's been hugely positive. I think the move to Melwood, the training centre, back in September was huge. I think spent quite a lot of time there over the course of the season, and it's just immaculate. It's got the best of every kind of facility that you would like, and a long time coming, really. So yeah, I think on the whole it's been a super positive season. I think the interesting thing will be next season, because quite often we've seen teams finish 5th in the league or finish, be pushing the top 4, and then they fell off a cliff the next season. You look at what's happened to Aston Villa. They've been, I suppose, a bit of a disappointment this season when you consider where they were last season. So it now, for Liverpool, this has to be sort of the minimum of what is expected, and they have to build on that. And I think, that's maybe why United have dropped off a little bit, because I think there was less expectation on them last season. So they were able to maybe play with a little bit more freedom. And I think now people will start to expect things of Liverpool. It'll be interesting to see, how they cope with that.
You mentioned a move, actually. It was a question I was going to ask you a little bit later on, but since you mentioned, obviously, and I really hope I'm not taking this away from another reporter, but I think you were the first to put this out there on Twitter. Liverpool's obviously stadium move to St Helens, or the Totally Wicked Stadium, as it's also known. Just your thoughts on that, in terms of, obviously, it's a 10-year deal, I believe, and it does sound, everything that was put out there does sound positive in terms of that move. Do you think that's a good thing? And also, it kind of adds a little bit of extra, obviously, thing to this weekend, the fact that it is Liverpool's last game, at Prenton Park.
Yeah, I think they've done well to make Prenton Park a little bit of a fortress over the last couple of seasons. It's a place that they very rarely get beat there by more than the odd goal. So I think it's been good to them the last couple of years. And I know there's been sort of a lot of, when I put the initial sort of news out in March that they were looking at moving away and looking at potentially moving to Prenton, a lot of the fan base were quite disappointed, because I think the big thing that a lot of fans wanted was them to be getting closer to the city centre rather than further away. And in terms of sort of distance to Anfield, they will be moving further away. I do think one thing that Matt Beard was quite keen to point out in his press conference earlier is that transport links to St Helens are good. I think actually a lot of people probably get put off by having to go under the Mersey Tunnel to go over to Prenton Park, even though distance-wise it's not that far. I think that's like a bit of a psychological block for people. So in terms of growing, the supporter base and things like that, I don't necessarily think it's going to make a huge difference, to be honest. But I know one thing that the club are quite keen to do is boost that fan experience. And really try and encourage the whole match day experience, try and make that more entertaining for the fans. And I think St Helens has the facilities to better allow them to do that. It's a 10-year lease, so it's a commitment for the future as well. So yeah, I think on the whole it's probably quite a positive move. I know it will divide opinion. I think it's quite difficult, and I'm sure United have the same thing. Their fans will want them to be playing closer to Old Trafford, but logistically it's very difficult. You've got to factor in, I'm sure Liverpool would love to be playing at Anfield every week, but I don't know if necessarily that would be the right step. And then you look at other venues in Liverpool city centre, I don't think there's many that are fit for purpose. So I think on the whole it's probably quite a positive move.
I'm sorry, what was that called? The Totally Wicked Stadium?
That's its name.
That's its name. Although I do believe for the purposes of when Liverpool are playing there, it's just going to be referred to as the St Helens Stadium, because Totally Wicked is the sponsor of St Helens, not of Liverpool. But yeah, it's quite a quirky old name for the stadium.
I mean, that has managed to beat my favourite stadium name, which I found in Tier 5, which was the Mozzarella Fella Stadium. Apparently, that's a pizza place. But yeah, totally wicked's going for that one. I'm still not over the Co-op Live, to be honest with you, being a place where you go to watch music. That's
well, you don't go to watch anything there at the moment.
Yeah. Oh God.
That's a whole other conversation. That's probably a bit triggering for some people, though, because I know there was a concert tonight and tomorrow that we probably shouldn't bring up for people. It's probably a bit worrying. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's probably a good move.
If anyone can't make those two Olivia Rodrigo concerts because they've been rescheduled, I couldn't get tickets. You can send them my way. I'll just put that out there. I was actually absolutely gassed that it was postponed because I was like, oh, maybe someone will have to give up the tickets.
There we go. That's not. We're plugging tickets now for God's. Do it all on this channel for you. But yeah, no, I agree. I think was Highland saying it? The name of the stadium was perfect opportunity whenever someone that can get. Yeah, exactly. There's lots to come out of it, but I do think that. I mean, I don't know, Barry and Keris, if you got any thoughts on this in terms of, do you think that adds anything to Sunday in terms of in Liverpool's favour, in United's favour, the fact it is the last home game for Liverpool, obviously at Prenton Park before they move, or do you think it just doesn't really matter too much, the fact that it's a move is on the cards for next season?
No, not really. I don't think they'll be too fussed, to be honest with you. I mean, I really don't know. I'm not a Liverpool fan. I don't go around Liverpool. I don't know how connected they are to it, really. But it's not really theirs, is it? I mean, it's Tranmere's as far as I'm aware. So, how fussed are they really about playing at Prenton Park? Listen, if we moved from LSB, I wouldn't care. I know there'd be people that would because it's where they've been week in, week out. But, I don't particularly think it's going to be that much of a thing. And let's be honest, doesn't usually work well, does it? Does anyone remember the old Wembley? We all sat there and was looking for a really good game for that one. We thought we'd have that a good see-off, and we just lost to Germany, which frankly has just scarred old Wembley forever. And now I never wanted to think about the place again. So, it's never a good idea. So it'll be a good game. That's all that matters. But no, I don't think anybody's going to be sitting there going, we must do this for the state. It's not Braveheart. No.
I wish that'd be quite the team tour, though. I could imagine Matt Beard doing that, to be fair. I think that's the kind of thing I can imagine him doing.
I don't think he should do that team talk. Have you seen Braveheart, Connor?
I should say yes, but I haven't.
It shows, because if you did, he definitely wouldn't be doing that team talk in a room full of women. Absolutely not. No, sir, Rick Bob.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to Google this afterwards, I think. There we go. What were we talking about? Emily put a comment in a bit earlier on talking about, can you imagine a Liverpool United FA Cup final? I'd have loved that. That would have been such a good final. Not that this one isn't going to be between United and Spurs, but I do feel like it would have been a better final potentially if that was it. And then we would have had obviously we've had the preview with Spurs, the dress rehearsal as people called it. This would have been an actual dress rehearsal the week before the final if this was a Liverpool thingy stadium because I just read a comment about stadiums, just throwing me off then. As well. Beth, I want to come back to you then in terms of Liverpool's season. In terms of standout players and things like that, in terms of for people who maybe haven't watched Liverpool throughout the season. If there's a couple of players you could highlight, who would they be in terms of who to watch out for and those kind of things?
I think one thing I will say is that I think Liverpool recruited really, really well last summer and last January as well. I think that they started, last January bringing back Gemma Bonner, who has been obviously scores the winner, scores 2 goals against Chelsea in midweek, but has been fantastic at the back. And probably I actually think when you look at sort of England before Christmas and defensively how shaky they looked, I think it was probably unlucky actually not to get a call up, because I think she's not put much of a foot wrong this season. But yeah, so Gemma Bonner has been excellent since she's been back at the club. Fuka Nagano, I think, has been a real great addition to the WSL, really technically gifted player. And then when you look at sort of last summer, Marie Herbinger, who I mentioned earlier on, got those 3 assists on Wednesday. Matt Beard always likens it to Farrah Williams in terms of the ability that she's got with both feet, which is a huge endorsement of a player's talent, isn't it, if you compare to Farrah? So, and then I think defensively as well, they've signed some really good players. Jenna Clark, who is a young Scotland international, has had a great season. And probably actually, I think Liverpool's signing of the season quietly has been Grace Fisk, who is another one who I think probably deserves a look in for England, because she's one of the sort of player who puts in sort of like a 7, 8 out of 10 performance every single week and doesn't really put a foot wrong. And because she doesn't really necessarily do anything spectacular, it goes under the radar a little bit. But I've been massively impressed with her. She's been so consistent, can play, in a back three and can play at full back as well. So she's been great. But I think all of Liverpool's signings really over the last sort of 12, 18 months have been great.
So it's certainly recruited well. And obviously, like, as Paul just mentioned, obviously nearly got Miyazawa as well. That was looking like it was like, I think that was an either or though. I think when you're looking at Roman Hart and Miyazawa, I think it was one was going to go one way, one was going the other. And I think if Miyazawa would have gone for Liverpool, United probably would have pushed Roman Hart a little bit harder as well on that deal.
Yeah, and so I didn't even mention Roman Hogg, but yeah, she's been massively impressive. I think she came in for big money. She was like the club record signing, and so I think there was the weight of expectation on her. And then she picks up a nasty injury away on international duty on the eve of the season, so she's a little bit slow, sort of getting into the team. Doesn't have a pre-season with Liverpool as well, so I think the first couple of months it was almost a little bit like waiting for her to get that first goal and what's she going to be like. Obviously, Katie Stengel had left the club last summer, who was a real fan favourite at Prenton Park. So she had big shoes to fill in that sense. But I think quietly over the season, she's just progressed massively. And, her aerial threat is unlike anything I've seen before. I think there was a stat that went up after the game on Wednesday, and she's won more than double the amount of aerial duels of any other player in the WSL. And that's a real weapon. There's a couple of really impressive flick-ons that she did to me around Enderby on Wednesday. And it's become sort of a real facet of Liverpool's game. That's something that I'm sure that United will be aware of and will be working on it ahead of that one on Sunday.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure, didn't Tegan and Mike have the stat as well? It was like most completed long balls in that game, and most of them, I'd say about 90% of them were directly to Roman Hart. That was clearly a tactic, obviously, Liverpool employed just to get up to her, because she's going to win, as you said, 9 out of 10 times. She's going to win the header, or certainly the knockdown. Before I come back to you, Keris, I'll throw over to yourself in terms of what we just mentioned there, in terms of the height of Liverpool, the set pieces and things like that. What do you think United would have learned from the defeat, obviously, in December? Obviously, we played in the Conti Cup as well, another 1-0 win in that one. These games have been pretty close in the last few years. What do you think United would have learned from Wednesday night, but also from those two games?
I think the manner in which we conceded some of our goals against Liverpool recently, and also the way that Chelsea obviously conceded them on Wednesday, feels quite like cheap. And that's not to do no kind of discredit or anything to Liverpool, but as a player and a coach and everything, you never want to see conceding from set pieces. That is something that as professional footballers, you should be very well drilled in. You should be very well organised. You should know who everyone's marking. You should know kind of who the biggest aerial threats are on the opposition team, and know who's marking them, whether that's maybe we have Turner man marking Roman Hogg, something like that. Just, it's about that preparation, I think, avoiding the complacency. Because we can I would say that United can probably play better, like free-flowing open play than Liverpool, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to score more goals than them at all. So we need to be really kind of, we can let our creativity shine a bit when we're out sort of in the midfield and pushing into the final third, but we need to be really disciplined and well organised defensively, really aware of the long ball over the top as well, like you mentioned, Connor. I think it's just going to come down to, for me, like discipline, preparation, and I think we know what threats Liverpool pose. We were very kind of painfully reminded of them last time we played them in the league. So we should be kind of pretty well prepared for it, I think.
Just certainly hope so. I think we'll come back to the United lineup a bit later on in the show. But I guess, Barry, just over to yourself before I come back to Beth for one final question before you have to hop off. But Barry, to that same question really, to what we would have learned again from watching Liverpool on Wednesday night, but also that defeat in December. Obviously, that I think it was the last game before the Christmas break, and it just sent us off on a really bad move for the 4 weeks, because it's like, we just want to play again, and then we had 4 weeks to wait until the Newcastle FA Cup game on the 14th.
Simple headlines. That would be number one: don't give away set pieces. Number 2, if you do, don't switch off at set pieces. Number 3 would be score more goals than Liverpool. And that's really all we need to do because we haven't done it. Like, genuinely, I can see Keris laughing there, but football is such a simple game and sometimes we just overcomplicate it. And that's genuinely all we need to do. So I've not really got much more to add to it other than it's impossible. We could sit here and preview because this is why you need to have an A, B, C plan because we can sit here and say this is what we think Liverpool are going to do. But Skinner himself admits they're a team that work very differently. They build up differently. They're different to teams from the rest of the league. So it's not going to be as simple as just, turning up and thinking there's going to be one way that we can beat them. So, like you said, it's been quite close. For me, we've not been brilliant at set pieces in terms of either taking or defending them. So, yeah, for me, let's just not concede the free kicks. And that's probably the nicest name I've been called on here so far. So I absolutely take that. If I had an ounce of his footballing ability, I would be an amazing manager.
What you just said there about us defending set pieces, that's what worries me a little bit. Watching how good Liverpool were, I know Chelsea were a little bit poor, but throughout the season, Liverpool, obviously in the aerial threat that they've got, that does worry me that we've not been great at defending set pieces. And Liverpool obviously look quite good attacking them. So Beth, I'll kind of ask you one.
Can I jump in super quickly? Yeah. On the set pieces, I think it's interesting because while I think we have given away some cheap stuff and we've not always looked as organised as we could at set pieces, when we saw it in the last kind of half hour against Chelsea, when we kind of decide, we've got a lead or we've got, we're not behind and we are not letting our lead go, the amount of balls that Chelsea put into the box and the amount of times that we must have cleared that ball in the last half an hour, United can do it. They can defend set pieces and they can defend crosses and long balls into the box. I think you just need to remember that. Like sometimes the players need to remember the way that they kind of ground out that win in the last half hour and try and reflect that.
You going, Keris?
I am actually, yeah.
Is that how you want to spend the last half hour of your day?
Watching
ball getting pumped in?
I'm in the press box, so it'll be nice and easy for me if that's all we do. I won't have to write too much. If it's
you could make a sign, Keris. A sign to say corners out. How about that? That'd work.
I don't think they'd let me in.
So I thought you were going to say stick Keris at the back post. You're quite tall, Keris. Stick you in there, and
this is the tactic that every grassroots team I've played for has employed for the last 10 years, and with only really minimal success, unfortunately. So sorry about that.
Maybe not. Maybe not on that one. Beth, right, the final question, then, in terms of if you want to throw a score prediction, you can as well. But a kind of question we like doing on previews is talking about swapping players and all these kinds of things across the teams. So if you could move one United player across into the Liverpool starting 11 that you think will take Liverpool maybe into the top 3 or push on into things like that, what player would you be looking at in that United squad that would, I guess, take Liverpool to the next level and in that Liverpool 11?
Oof, it's a tough one. I think it's probably a very basic answer, but I think Mary Earps would probably have to be my answer. I think Tegan Micah has come in and we probably saw both sides of Micah on Wednesday night. She made a little bit of a mess of it for a couple of the goals, but then makes a spectacular save for Maggie Beaver-Jones late on. And I know Mary's not had the best season by her own standards, but I just think what Liverpool are missing is that real presence in goal. I think Rachel Laws has been a great servant for the club and has actually performed really well at times this season. But again, it is maybe not the answer going forward. I don't think she's the sort of goalkeeper that's going to get you top 3 consistently. So I think having someone of Mary's pedigree and experience in goal would be great for Liverpool. Not too sure that's going to be where her next contract takes her, but I think if Liverpool could probably sign anyone, I think from the United team, I think she's probably who they would go for.
So I thought I don't know why. I had in my head that you would say someone like May Letizia or Millie Turner or something. I don't know why.
I'm a big fan of both of those players, and I'm a huge fan. I know you obviously haven't got to see the best of her this season, but Gabby George, I think, is a tremendous player, and saw a lot of her last season when she was at Everton, and was really excited to see what she could do for United. And obviously, such a shame that she picked up such a serious injury so early on. But I think once she's back to her best and fully fit next season, I think you'll have a really good player on your hands there. So she's someone that I would, I certainly wouldn't mind seeing in the Liverpool lineup. But yeah, I think a lot of United's defensive players, I think, would catch the eye of Liverpool.
No, yeah, that makes sense on that one. Right, before we let you go, if you want to shout out, obviously, because I know you've got to hop off, you want to shout where people can find your Twitter or your articles and all those kind of things online.
Yep, so it's at Beth_Lindop on Twitter, which, if you follow that username that's on the screen at the moment. And any of my articles will be on the Manchester Evening News, obviously for the Manchester side of things, or the Mirror. Just type my name in and the name of the publication. Hopefully you should find some of my stuff.
Nice one. Thank you so much for giving it your Friday evening for joining us on this one. Make sure you go in and follow it. Beth, just some amazing stuff on there as well. So I'm sure you'll be able to find all those things on there.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Best of luck for the weekend.
No worries. Thank you for coming on.
Cheers.
Do we throw
second nicest Liverpool fan I think we've met?
You say second night? Is that behind Emily?
It's got to be behind Emily. Emily's here every week.
I thought it was. Do we flip the question round from a Liverpool who would move from Liverpool? I've not even thought about it. The question was only really for Beth when we were talking about from United to Liverpool. I didn't even think about an answer from Liverpool to United, to be fair. Although mine would probably be Roman Haag as a striker, but I've not really given it too much thought. Or her or Gemma Bonner at the back, maybe, would be the only two I think I would swap. There's not really anyone else, albeit very good players in that Liverpool team. While you two are thinking, yes, there was a couple of comments. Mary is a Liverpool fan, I believe. So. Yes. But so isn't Keats Liverpool? I don't know about Keats, although she does like playing in Liverpool. She scores a lot. We'll come back to her in a second.
Yeah, she definitely sounds like she has a bit of a Scouse accent. So I can.
She's from around there.
Yeah, I can believe that. Taylor Hines as well. Someone's just put in the comments. I think she's been excellent this season. Whether I'd swap her out for any of our players at the moment in the starting 11 is kind of a separate question, but I do think she's been phenomenal this season. Like, she's someone who would be, I think, a pretty valuable addition to any squad. Or other than that, I would have to go Roman Haag as well.
Yeah.
Gemma Bonner, I would take her because we need defenders.
She's a really good defender as well. That's somebody that we're going to need to. I think Mark Skinner addressed it, or I say addressed it, but mentioned it in his press conference today, didn't he? Talking about that instant that Gemma Bonner had with Rachel Williams. Obviously, the clash, and Williams just went straight through her, and obviously Gemma came away the worst off in that one. Positive time, we definitely don't need another midfielder. I purposely avoided midfielders because they've got some good. Kerry Holland's a very good midfielder, and obviously Missy Beaucourt's on the thumbnail, and these Lungard I think is a good player as well. But no,
genuinely though, Connor, player for player, no, there's not one on swap.
No, I would take Roman Haag in the team 100% because I think we're going to need forwards. Obviously, we've got a couple potentially out of contract forwards out of contract this summer with Rach, Lucia, Keats, and so on. So we may end up needing more forwards. So I'll take her, and obviously Mallard potentially not coming back as well. So that's a scary thought, isn't it? Every time I think about it, I'm like, that's 4 forwards. That's only Leah and Jimmy's left. From a forwards point of view, if all those left, that's quite scary when you think about it like that. James is talking about Miedemar. There's a Twitter rumor that's gone around that's started about Miedemar to United that I don't think that's going to happen. I can't lie to you. Sorry to burst your bubble. We can dream, but I just don't think that's happening. I'll eat my words if that does, and I'd love it to happen, I think, but yeah, I don't think so. I wouldn't get your hopes up on that one happening.
When was the last time United actually signed someone we were rumoured to actually be in for?
Well, it depends what you mean. We signed everyone we were rumoured for last summer.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we were rumoured to a couple of players over the January window, but it just never happened, did it? But yeah, no, I agree, James. I think she will leave, but I don't think she's coming to us. Possibly Tom's going for the managers again. I'd change Skinner for Matt Beard. Matt Beard, to be fair, I think he's going to be unlucky and not get manager of the season because I think the Spurs manager should get it really because of the upgrade Spurs have gone. They've got to the cup final. I think really for me they've had a better season. If Liverpool are in the final, I don't think there's any question. I think Matt Beard should get it, but I don't think he will. And to be honest, I actually Gareth Taylor will probably get it. It's usually the winner of the WSL that gets it, isn't it? So.
I think, to be fair, what's been so good this season, though, is seeing like Willem and Beard both is that emergence of like having a top six in the WSL, like having all big six clubs, like all the traditional men's big six clubs, like properly competing in the WSL. I think has been really good to see. It just makes it that much more like competitive and that much more interesting for everyone to watch. When I've got, dare I say it, mates who are Liverpool fans. And when I got back from, they never spoke to me about the women's football in the past. And then when I got home in December, it was horrible at the time. But my housemate was giving me all this. And I was like, since when do you care? He's like, yeah, but, we started competing now. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's good to get the viewers, although I would rather it wasn't all my friends who support Liverpool. It's good to get like more people engaged.
No, I agree. I think I'm just double checking. In fact, no, it'll be the same should they win both games. I was just double checking what the points tally was for the winner of last season. Obviously, Chelsea was 58. City have got 2 games left, so they can get 58. So it'll be the same again. Into the points, top 3 was 47. It's going to be probably going to be 47 again on that one. So give or take, but like you said, the 5th to kind of 7th. Have improved. Obviously, Villa were there or thereabouts last season, but this season you've got Spurs obviously coming up in 6th as well, and both moving up. Just very quickly, if you heard me laughing a second ago, hi, then it was your comment. Did Cooney Cross finish her medical? Oh dear, yes, that was quite something. There was a comment asking about Caldente. Do you know what? I don't know what. Okay, I think she will come to the WSL. I don't think it's going to be to us. I think. At the end of the day, I'm just a fan. I don't know all these things, but I can see her in the WSL, but I don't think it's going to be to us. We should be putting our money down for. All right, you're going to get me into trouble. But I think I can't remember what I was going to say now. What I was going to say was we should be putting all our money down on Malard, in my opinion, because there's somebody who, for me, is just everything we need in a forward. Right. Speaking of players coming back. Jayde Riviere looking like she's back in contention for this weekend. I kind of said when she got injured, and I was proven to be right, although then we got to the cup final, and I said she'd be back for the second to last game of the season. I'm still taking that as I was right on that one. So the question is, in terms of would you bring her back in to the 11? Obviously, we've seen Gemma Evans at left back. Aoife Mannion was the right back, and then now she seems to be out. I don't think it was any injury, though. I think she should be back in contention as well. Well, Mark's going to say there's no other injuries, so she should be back for Sunday as well. Barry, what would you be doing with Jayde? Because we know she's had obviously a rough time with injury. She kind of comes back into the team. She comes back out again. She's injured again. So with this one, would you be taking the risk, or would you be going for, if Aoife Mannion's fit, going for her, at right back and the back five that we've been seeing?
Yes, brilliant. And I've spent all year saying play the people in the right position, and then I'm going to sit here and go, no, I wouldn't start Jayde Riviere. But that's some sensible, Connor. And if we want to win the FA Cup, we need our strongest side possible, and that would include having a balanced side. He keeps going on about having that left side balance as if, we can get a left-sided, a player with the left foot on the left side, as if Hannah Blundell has been useless and as if Dennis Irwin wasn't the best left back that Man United ever had. It's ridiculous. So I think for me, Mannion's fit, stick Gemma Evans out there at right back if you need to. It's just Liverpool. I'm not really fussed. At the end of the day, if we finish 4th, if we finish 5th, it's big. Yes, I do want to finish above Liverpool, but I think everyone in this chat right now, if you said to them we're going to lose to Liverpool, but we're going to beat Spurs, they take it. Because what's the difference between 4th and 5th? Like nothing. There's nothing special. Obviously, it would be disappointing to finish 5th because it would be our lowest WSL finish. But that's kind of counteracted by the fact that you've won your first trophy of any decent note. So for me, that's what you would do. You do that, and then you bring her on. Maybe I saw 45 minutes there, maybe half hour. I would be thinking, bring her on the 60. That seems to be the pre-agreed time to bring people on for substitutes on this channel. So bring them on at 60 minutes, give her 30 minutes there, a little bit of a run out. She gets a little bit of leg time so that she knows what she's doing and she can sort of bring herself back up to speed a bit. Good bit of training before Wembley. And then she runs riot all over Spurs.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm leaning to. I don't know whether, Keris, you agree with that one in terms of, because I think someone's put it in the chat, in terms of don't risk, TJ saying don't risk her immediately getting re-injured. James is saying no risk in the battle, which sees you get a bad challenge. We've already spoken about how physical Liverpool are and the fact that they will play like that. So do you agree that probably it's not worth the risk in this one? And, as Barry said, just kind of bring her on later on into the game.
Yeah, no, that would be my instinct. I mean, my kind of initial gut instinct when we're playing Liverpool is always throw everything at it. But if I'm being like pragmatic, which I will try to be, we've got the FA Cup final next week, and ultimately it's between 4th and 5th, and that doesn't make any difference in terms of qualification or anything like that. So it's the right thing to do for me is to just start Mannion, presuming she's fit. It would be good to see Jayde get literally like 30 or even 20 minutes at the end just to check her fitness, but I've got no interest in seeing us take any risks with her at all ahead of this final. Like we said, one, it could be that she aggravates an existing injury just by playing. That's always the risk. The injury she's just recovering from, she could just aggravate it on her own. And then there's the added factor of she is playing against Liverpool, and at some point she'll probably get clattered, which is yet another way to re-aggravate that injury or create a whole new one. So I don't think it's a risk that we need to be taking when we've got the cup final next weekend. I'd just be playing it really safe.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree, especially because the reason why she was out for so long, so we brought her back on, in that City game. Obviously, we don't have the conversation, but she did come back on. And obviously the one that went down has been out since then. It's not worth the risk. I want to see her play if she's fit and ready to make the matchday squad. Obviously, she's fine and well enough to come on, but I don't want to see her start because it's just not worth the risk. I agree with you. We've got Wembley literally in a week or a week Sunday. We need to have her ready for that if she's ready to start. She might not be ready to start that either, but we might need her in that game as well. So I'd rather have her ready for that than. And there's a couple of games in the end of the season. She's got the Olympics as well. Obviously, with Canada to think about in the summer. Like for her, I know she'll want to play every minute as every player does. It's not worth the risk. Like for any player, but certainly with a player like her who's had such a bad injury record, of late.
Yeah, I think it's what we spoke about after she got injured again. I remember having the debate on this channel about should it's not the physios, the physios couldn't have done anything because she clearly wanted to come back on like every player does. And there's not much doubt. My gut instinct is that she'll really want to play against Liverpool. But again, what I argued on that show and what I'll argue now is that's what the medical team are there for. It's their job to make that judgment call of is it worth that risk. And I think for me, I'm no physio, so I could be proven completely wrong. And if she, she plays a full 90 on the next 2 weekends on the trot and she's fine, then fantastic. But I would, I think we need to manage her minutes really carefully.
Go on, Barry. You've been unmuted for a while. So usually that means you want to say something. I don't know whether you've just
prepared that. All right. I'm not particularly fast on that one, but I would have just added to what Marcus said, which was to leave her out until the cup final. And I'm never a big fan of just throwing people into big games when they've had time off. I think they need to have a little bit of competition under their belt because it's just as bad if she plays the first 10 minutes and isn't ready for the Spurs game, and then we've got to use one of our substitutions just to change that around. It changes everything anyway. So yeah, I wouldn't do that.
No, I think that's pretty fair on that one. And while we're on the conversation of picking teams, and there's a people in the chat talking about Guerrero, and I don't think that there's no need to ask about her. She's not going to be playing on that one.
I've got a new song for her, though, if you want it.
Oh, God.
Well, you know how, I mean, obviously, the obvious song should have been Come On Irene, shouldn't it, really? That's what it should have been. And they didn't do that because, you know, it was deemed too bad. But if you change it around, nowadays, it could be Irene, come on. It's been far too long since we've seen you. It means everything. Irene, come on. Oh, it's been far too long since we've seen you. It means everything. You get that belting out around Prenton Park. Mark Skinner's bringing her on. Up to you, Quiff boy. Get it singing.
I think I can catch on, you know. I believe in that song, to be fair.
Skinner, please can we see her? Skinner, like that. That's what I want to sing. Just do that. Go for it. Sing your little heart out.
Yeah, no, I'd back that, to be fair. It's puzzling times just asked, actually, and so obviously even better than the poem. Are you going to write another poem for the final? You did one for the semi-final.
Oh, I'm going to have to now, and if we don't win, everyone's going to blame me. If we lose, I can just blame you.
There's got to be another one. Oh, dear. I'll sing it, tweet the word. We'll get that out there. Don't you worry. I'll clip that up after we come off here. Get that train out. Arsenal fans. Oh, dear.
I'm not that fast.
Speaking of Arsenal, Kevin has referenced them. Obviously, congrats to the under-21s lifting their league trophy. Yes, they did beat Arsenal 3-1. So, yeah. Again, a game that I guess pressure works because the semi-final, I call it the semi-final, the Northern game, obviously Leicester, I think it was not reported on. There was no photographer there or anything else. Whereas this one, there was a photographer there. United were tweeting regularly about it and everything else. So at least there was more coverage for this game than there was for the Northern one. So yeah, congrats to them. There's a lot of good players in that squad. Evie Ramtron also played in that game as well. So another player getting minutes in the legs that we might potentially need or want to use going into next season, certainly from a defensive point of view. What I was going to ask though, obviously talking about the team in terms of what we think we're going to put out. I spoke about this on the TikTok live last week, there was a couple of people were in two minds. Do we go for the team that we're likely going to see in the final to get that, I guess, not used to playing with each other because we're 3 games at the end of the season now. They should know by now in terms of who they're, how each other play and so on. So would you go full strength, in terms of what we're going to see in the final to get them used to that and that momentum, get that winning feeling, or hopefully winning feeling amongst that group? Or would you change it up a little bit and try and preserve some of the players for the final against Spurs? Because we saw a little bit of rotation against Leicester. My gut feeling is we'll go back to what I think the team we see on Sunday is likely what we're going to see in the final. I think that's just a feeling I've got, barring injuries and obviously player fitness and things like that. The only change potentially, though, I think it probably will be Paris because she loves a goal in these games against Liverpool. Is there any changes, Keris, you would make from the Leicester team? Obviously, there was a lot of changes in that team, or would you? Where do you kind of stand on that one?
Yeah, I think I would be wanting to see Paris in there, definitely, especially because we've got those options to rotate up front. I think there's always whenever we talk about the kind of do you rotate ahead of a big game to give players a bit of rest, I feel like we need to remember we can also make substitutions. Like it's not a player plays 90 minutes or zero. So I would like to see us kind of start in Paris. And then, if it gets to 55, 60 minutes, then we can bring on Rachel Williams for Paris because that's the beauty of actually having the options on the bench. So I think in terms of rotation, there is something to be said for having the team that's going to start the final as much as we can, get a bit of time, get a few minutes in the legs, like all playing together, just to, like you say, they should all know each other by now, but like just to refresh their memory, if you like, and like make sure that they've worked on the kind of things that they want to be putting into practice in the final. But also, if anyone is looking tired, if anyone's looking like they're carrying any sort of like little knock, if anyone has served their role, and there is someone on the bench that we can bring on for them, then I don't think there's any reason for us to not be doing that. I think, I can understand the desire to get that consistency in there, but I think it's probably, well, it's the biggest game of our history, on a par with last year's FA Cup final, right? So we need to be as kind of pragmatic for it as we can and do some rotation if we need to.
I think that's it. The players we're talking about rotating, to be fair, the players, I think when you talk about Paris, Williams, Ladd or Miyazawa, I think they're when we're talking about rotation, they're the ones really that you're talking about bringing in. And half of those players got us to the final. Obviously, Williams played really well in that semi-final as well. So we're not talking about massive rotation here, that we're just throw the kids out there and throw the game. We're talking about players that got us to the final and also have played a lot of minutes this season. Barry, what would you be looking to do from a team point of view? Like I said, we changed a bit for Leicester. Would you be going back to what we know is, I guess, more the norm, or what would you be doing?
Glad you asked, Connor. I've written the team out. So I would start with Fallon Tullis-Joyce in goal. I would play an under-21, maybe Alyssa O'Han, someone like that. Somebody like that at right back. Give them a chance. Let's not muck about too much. I'd play Aoife Mannion, shockingly, as a centre-back, alongside Gemma Evans. There'll be some speed there. Hannah Blundell at left back. I'll play Hayley Ladd alongside Irene Guerrero, which would then spoil the song, but we know that's not happening. So I would then play Miyazawa just in front. I'll play Nikita Parrott on the right hand side with Rachel Williams on top, and Melvine Malard at the left hand side. And then I would bring in Jayde Riviere on towards the end. I would be bringing on either Maya or Millie for Hannah somewhere through the game, possibly halfway through. For the sake of it, we'll just throw Gemma Evans out at left back. What's the worst that can happen? She's been, doing it for ages. And we put, one of them in there purely because we've got no defenders. Or you could just put another youth person in. I don't really care. Then you could, up front, obviously give Garcia, Galton and Jayde potentially a run out as well. And with regards to the front line and midfield especially, I'll be telling these people that this is their opportunity to shine. You want to be playing against Spurs, you want a chance in the FA Cup final, go and beat Liverpool. They've just beaten Chelsea. That first team have beaten Chelsea already. So now's your chance to go and show you've got the ability to go out there and do well. And if they do, Mark Skinner's got a headache. But that's not what's going to happen. Because, well, he stopped listening to me. I'm clearly off of his Christmas card list.
I was going to say, when you were reading that team out there, I was thinking you're literally picking the exact opposite in every position that we're likely going to see on Sunday. Barring, I think Paris will start, but it'll be down the middle. And I think it'll be Galton and Garcia. I think on either side. Garcia's obviously scored against Liverpool last season. Galton obviously on the left makes sense because Mark's been talking a lot about the left-footed left side in his press conference this morning. So I think it'll be Galton. I think it'll be the back five that we've seen. I think it'll be Mannion at right back, May and Millie, Hannah, and obviously Mary in goal. But I would go with your team, but we're not going to see it.
We spoke about Mallard, and this was one of the things that really wound me up because you said about that, how he's talking about that left-hand side again. And saying how he's playing Mallard up front in the 9 position rather than Nikita Parris, and she's done all right there for a couple of games. But we haven't seen Melvine as much as we could have seen her really in that sort of position. And when he talks about potentially buying her and the evolution of the team, like he's basically said, from what I could hear, that the evolution of the team, you've seen the players that we brought in, and this is all part of the number of players he said that we brought in. It's almost as if we've just brought them in like some sort of World War II evacuation carriage of children. And then they're just going, yeah, we'll have that one, and that one. The rest of you can just do one. But you'll have to stay here for a whole year before you have the ability to do that. Instead of doing what most clubs would do, which is to pick the players based on how good they are and bring them into your team that way. It's very, very strange. And listening to the way he's talking about her, it doesn't fill me full of confidence that we're looking to to make her stay here in Manchester permanent, which is frustrating.
I'm glad you brought it up, actually. I was going to bring this that there's always a soundbite from asking this press conference. I mean, Chris Brooks tweeted this earlier. He was the one that asked the question, I believe. And it was a straightforward question in terms of whether he sees Malard staying next season, whether the club wants to stay. And Mark went on this interesting conversation about where he sees Malard best and the evolution of her this season, talking about her being a deadly finisher, then talking about her on the left. And it's like, to me, that's a simple, we want to keep her, we like what we've seen so far and everything else. But the explanation he's given, we've had the exact quote that Chris put out with it. There's a whole thing, you can go on his Twitter and find it. It's a massive, like, three screenshotted notes thing on this one. But the actual quote was, I think we've had to evolve throughout the season, where there is obviously something we're assessing going forward towards the end of the season. And talking about her being an out-and-out number 9, I feel like she's got that deadly finisher's touch. If we can get her in the box, I feel like she has that quality of finish. But then starts talking about her off the left. And it's like, well, which one is it? Do you see her as a striker? Do you see her as a left winger? Because, we've seen here, her best season for Lyon was off the left, but she clearly likes playing down the middle. To me, she's a better number 9 than anyone we've got. She's a proper striker. I don't know, but like you said, I don't think she's going to be here next season, and that makes me really sad because the whole thing of never falling in love with loan players. I certainly have.
Again, what's really frustrating about all of that is how you've just sat there and said, "Oh, I think she could be a really good goal scorer. She's a great finisher when she gets into the box." Well, the best way for her to get into the box and score is to be on the bloody pitch for a start. Nobody's getting in the box and scoring without that, unless they have absolutely had about 95 pints and they've just jumped over the hoardings, and it's the last thing they're going to do before they're not allowed to come to football anymore. Like, seriously, what is wrong? I just can't, Connor. I keep coming onto these previews, and honestly, it's like the Where's Wally of Mark Skinner quotes. Which one are we going to pick out that's just almost designed? It's as if he's doing our work for us and just trying to deliberately deliver a soundbite that we can look at and go, "Oh, that's a bit mad."
It makes the previews easier. So it means I've got another question to ask.
But it doesn't make sense. You can't on the one hand say she's really good, she's this, she's that, she's the other, and then not be playing her as much as she could be played. She's good off the left, and then he's talking about the fact that we haven't got a left-footed player because you get different cues. Well, of course you bloody do. They've got different feet. But it doesn't stop Anthony playing on the right when he hasn't got a right foot. Like, sometimes that inversion, let's not forget, we're talking about having a left-sided player or a left-footed player on the left side, and then on the other side of it, we've got right backs that are inverting and going in front of the centre backs. You can't on the one hand go, "I want width, I want players that are using their right feet to be on the right side of the touchline. It's really, really important." And on the other hand, go, "But then what I'm going to do is stick them in the middle of the pitch. They're not actually in the position they're meant to be in the first place." Basically.
Karis, anything to add on that one?
On what? On Malard, yeah, I'm with both of you. I'll be gutted if she goes next season. I don't think we've seen the best of her yet. I think that she's someone who's so loved by the fans and has clearly, despite potential frustration with the lack of minutes, it's clearly, she's behind. Like you saw her after the semi-final. That old thing of like you were saying, Connor, don't fall in love with loan players. That after the semi-final, her kind of reaction, her like geeing up the crowd and everything made it a lot more difficult. But yeah, no, I think it'll be a real shame if she goes, and she needs, like any player really, she just needs to be told that she's valued and be like shown how she's going to be valued and what her role's going to be in the squad. I think it takes that sort of clarity, basically.
No, I agree. And like I said, I would be starting her I'd be starting her for the rest of the season. Now, I don't know why we wouldn't. I'd be starting her in the 9 with Goldwyn off the left. But it's probably not what we're going to see. But who knows? We'll see on that one. I don't know what the next kind of question was. I think you've kind of answered it, because my final question in terms of around the game, obviously a lot of emphasis on this game is about fourth and about finishing fourth and so on. You kind of both already answered this in terms of the importance of it, if there is any importance of finishing fourth. Because I've kind of changed my tune. For the last 2 months, I've been saying it doesn't matter, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever. But now I'm very much just like, well, actually, to me, it does, because winning the FA Cup will be amazing, and on the day and the days following, it'll be amazing. But then I think if we look back at the end of the season and go, we won the FA Cup, but there's always going to be that but. Oh, we finished in our lowest ever position in the WSL. So to me, it's equally as important to finish fourth, because then there won't be that little, I call it like an asterisk. There won't be a little thing next to the FA Cup win going, but you finished in the lowest you've ever finished. Because to me, the league form tells you more about your season than a cup run, because cup run's 4 or 5 games at most. A league is 22 in the WSL, 38 in the Premier League. So that tells you more about how your season's gone to me. So for me, I've actually changed my mind, and I think fourth is very important, and that we should be finishing there, because I don't want that afterthought of, oh, it's fifth and it's Liverpool, which makes it just a little bit worse. Not that it really matters too much, but I don't want that either.
I see what you're saying. I do. Now, I'm going to throw across like a little scenario to you here, Connor. So I want you to imagine we beat Liverpool, lose to Chelsea. We end up on the same number of points as Liverpool, but our goal difference is better. So we finish fourth. Liverpool finish fifth. But you've just said it yourself about the thing that's come out about that would be 1 point against the, well, be 4 points against the top 5 with that scenario. That would still be a fourth finish, so it wouldn't be any lower. But I mean, sorry, High Lane, but I've seen High Lane say that we deserve to finish fourth with our team. I would argue that actually all we've been better at there is beating teams that are lower than fifth than Liverpool are. But Liverpool have done better at getting points out of the big teams, unfortunately, of which we are one of those. Not unfortunately that we're one of the big teams, but unfortunately one of the ones they've taken points off of. Does that still hold the same relevance for you if it's in that situation? If it ends at a goal difference thing, based on all those points as well, would you still take that as being just as important? Because technically, to me, that's where the asterisk really comes in.
I think it's a hindsight thing, isn't it? Because when we come to the end, it's going to be the end of the season. Because as I said, if we win the FA Cup, for that day and that week probably following and everything else, that feeling is not going to go away. But I think when we come to do our end of the season shows and we sit over the summer and look back at the whole season and we finish fifth and only 1 point against the top 5 after picking up 16 last season, I think there'll be that, yes, the FA Cup was great, but look at how poor the league was in terms of only 1 point against the top. We might end up getting 7 as the most we can get now, since we've got Liverpool and Chelsea, so we can pick up 6 more in the league. But I would I would put a little bit of a dampener on it. I would, even though it would be the first major trophy we've won, obviously with the FA Cup and everything else, it would make a little bit of a difference to me. Now, I think we will finish fourth, so I think we'll win on Sunday. I'm not so sure about the last game of the season against Chelsea. I've got to be honest, it depends what Chelsea show off. But I think we win Sunday. We should get fourth anyway. I don't know. I don't think it matters massively. It's more just, I don't know. I don't know whether people agree. That's why I asked the question, because it's just something I've thought about in the last kind of few weeks, that for me, it would just take a little bit of shine off the FA Cup if we finish fifth. Because like I said, I just don't want there to be any conversation, oh, it was our lowest ever finish and everything else. I know people, there's a lot of chat online about, oh, well, if we finish fifth, that might mean, about Mark Skinner's contract and all that kind of thing. I honestly don't think it makes a difference. I think we could lose the final and finish fifth. And that contract is still on the table, regardless of where we finish. So I don't think it makes a difference.
In answer to your question, ultimately, I'd be disappointed if we finish fifth, of course. But if we've won the FA Cup, I think really that's all that matters. We speak again about the evolution of a side. The fact is, it'll be the first thing that we've won. Not including the Championship, at this level, at WSL level, at top tier, it is it would be the first top tier cup that we have won. And with the greatest respect, it doesn't matter whether you're 12th or whether you're first to win that cup. You still won it. And your name is forever going to be on there. Nobody in 20 years' time is going to be looking back at the winners of the FA Cup and going, oh, yeah, but that one from Man United, they only finished fifth. That was also the worst ever league season. Because in 20 years' time, it's not going to be a drama. What's going to matter is that was the first trophy that we've won. And it'll be, for Mark Skinner, something that he'll always have on his CV. The fact that we've won the FA Cup under him. So, yeah, I'd be disappointed for a hot minute, but let's be honest, winning the FA Cup, it's not going to compare.
Oh.
It's a much bigger thing. So I don't think I would be ultimately that fussed. It'd be a bit disappointing. It'd be a talking point. It'd be annoying because all the Skinner outers are going to be using that as their reason to beat him. Yeah, all right, he might won the FA Cup, but it was the worst season we've ever had. Rah, 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 rah. And I'll be like, do you know what? If we were going to have the worst season we've ever had but win a trophy, I think I'd take that every year. That's mad. Trophy being your worst season? Nah.
It's a weird one. Well, yeah, it depends on how you measure. I think Paul's just put any good manager will tell you the league is how you measure your season. It is, and every manager comes out and says that the league has said it's more games. You only have to look at Wigan on the men's side. They won the FA Cup. I'm pretty sure they got relegated in the same season. Would they swap that FA Cup for staying in the Premier League? I don't know. Depends which Wigan fans you speak to. But that day at Wembley and that winning moment, like if you're offering it to me now, win the cup and finish fifth, 100%. I'm taking the cup and fifth because I want to see the team win it. Keris, where do you stand on that in terms of, do you think there is an emphasis on like the importance on fourth, or do you think it doesn't matter too much, as long as we get the FA Cup over the line?
I think it matters either way. Like if you're saying, do you want to finish fifth and win the cup or finish fourth and lose the cup, then I'd take the cup because, as we said, the league table between fourth and fifth, it doesn't make a difference in terms of qualification. It's about bragging rights. But I'm, I have it a lot with, supporting United men, for example. I'll be looking at the table and what on earth are you looking at the table for? You're looking to see if you've moved up between 7th and 6th or something. And I'm like, well, yeah, I am. Because you want to finish as high as you can in the league. And yeah, that's really sad that's the height of the table that I'm looking at. But I think as fans, we all want the team to finish as high as we possibly can. So what the FA Cup is definitely, if you offered me, like I say, if it's a choice between fourth and the cup, then you take the cup, of course. But I don't think it is that choice. And I think the team need to have that sort of accountability almost of saying, like, just if we win the FA Cup, that does not mean I'm not trying to be super negative, but if it's almost as though Barry said, in 20 years, whoever wins the FA Cup will still be remembered for that. They won't be remembered for where they finished in the league. However, that doesn't mean that if you win a cup, that writes off the league season, no matter where you finished, right? I think no matter what happens with the cup, we still need to be pushing as hard as we can for the WSL, because ultimately that's what we all want, right? Is to move up the WSL table and stay as high as we can there. So I don't know. That was really waffly, but I think the short version is league table position does matter, even if it doesn't matter in terms of like Champions League qualification. I think it matters in terms of pride and being able to say, we finished higher than we would have otherwise. And also we finished above Liverpool. Yeah, it's sentimental, but I really don't want to finish below Liverpool. I don't think any United fan does. And that genuinely would put a little bit of a damper on the season, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not a straight either or, but I think it's like John's just said in the chat, let's take fourth and the cup. I think we need to be a little bit more ambitious.
Well, it's in our hands, isn't it? That's the good thing. Like we win on Sunday. I know we're level points, but I think our goal difference is a lot better than Liverpool's. So we win on Sunday. It is pretty much all but ours, in terms of fourth. So that's what I mean. I think Barry said at the start, Skinner did say 3 cup finals. That's pretty much what in a weird way of looking at it. In terms of finishing fourth.
I was like in scales when he said that, because part of me's like, I like the ambition of the idea of us going out there and playing each match as if it really matters. But I'm not being funny. All of us were sat here 2-3 weeks ago going, the season's over, the season's dead. It's all about the FA Cup. And it's amazing how quickly we sort of forget that. I agree, of course, as has already been mentioned here by Marin as well. The position at the end of the season shows how good the team have performed, not necessarily a one-off. And of course, that's the case. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. But we're talking about ambition. All of us were sat here hoping that we were going to be having a title challenge this season. So the ambition was there, but you have to put it to the realism of the season that you've had, not the season that you wanted. And the season that we've had has not been the level that we wanted it to be. So as a result, we've ended up in a situation where the best we can hope for, as you see, is fourth and the cup. It's a hypothetical question. You know, you're talking, obviously, until it happens, we don't know whether it's going to be fourth, whether it's going to be fifth. We'll have a better idea after Sunday. But you are going to be, if we lose to Liverpool, everybody's going to be annoyed. Of course they are, because that's how life works. But we then go and win the FA Cup. Nobody's talking about Liverpool anymore. And yes, we'll have the Chelsea game, and yes, we'll have the review, and you'll come on here with your beautifully coiffured quiff telling us all how, you know, it's a little bit disappointing because we finished fifth and all of that jazz. But ultimately, that FA Cup win and the day that you've had, you can't replace those feelings. You just can't. When you win, you always remember the years you've won stuff. Always. And so whilst I get that absolutely the league is massively important in terms of where you finish, as us as fans, we're not going to be thinking about that. We're not going to be sitting here thinking, oh yeah, that season we didn't have a great league season. The thing we'll think about will be the trophies. And I'll come back to what I've said since the start of coming onto these shows, is that we're 5 years old. We're only a small club in terms of women's football. We are not the Man United of the men's side. We're not. And we know we like to conflate the two, but the minute we're spending £1 million on women's players and putting money into the team, then you can start talking to me about these big lofty ambitions. For now, we've just got to build as best as we possibly can with what we've got. And winning the FA Cup is, for better or worse, progress from the previous seasons. Last season, we made the FA Cup final and didn't win it and finished really, really well. We're not going to finish as well as we did in the league. So whether we finish fourth or whether we finish fifth, it's not going to be progress from last season. Of course, I want to finish above Liverpool. I hate the idea that Liverpool will finish above us. But again, it's the choice of that at the FA Cup. If you were being binary, I'm going to be way happier if we win the FA Cup. So I get it, but just come back to me in 2 weeks' time when it's all over. And I promise you're all going to be singing and dancing if we beat them Spurs. You're not going to care if we lost to Liverpool and Chelsea too much. But we're not going to lose to Chelsea because we're beating them. I've got a feeling in my water.
I think it depends. I mean, what you said, I agree with most of it until you said, obviously, until we spent $1 million on the team. We have. Mark Skinner himself has spent $1 million on players, you know, since he's come in.
I meant like the individual players, like not being funny. You know, they're being sold for like 20 pence and a packet of crisps at the moment compared to what the men's team are spending on players. That's £1 billion. So when we start spending money, I'm talking about investiture. When we invest in the team, then we can really have that discussion.
Yes and no. I agree to a point. I mean, we were the highest spenders last summer, and we have just built a brand new state-of-the-art facility. So I would argue they're investing enough for us to be in this conversation. Into maybe not sustainable. I think Jennifer's just put it there. Sustainable. We don't know because it's only been a year since our facility. Well, not even a year since our facility's been open, and we're talking about last summer. It's not been a year since then. So yeah, I agree with you in terms of so let's see 4 or 5 years down the line in terms of where we are in terms of sustainable. Obviously within EOS now as well. We don't know how that's going to play out with the women's team and what backings they're going to put in place for that. We'll have to just wait and see. But yeah, I don't know. This is a whole other conversation, but this for me is why the FA Cup final should be after the last league game of the season, not in the middle of two. Because I hear what you're saying, but let's say we win the cup final and then get battered by Chelsea at Old Trafford. It's going to be that's going to hurt because it's going to be like, why couldn't the cup final have just been after the last game? It is for the men. Why can they not just put the women's after the end of the season?
It's not going to be from next year though. They're changing it and they're putting it to the week before because the people that run football haven't got a bloody clue because they're too busy, to quote a famous captain, eating their prawn sandwiches and doffing about doing stuff they don't need to do. Just understand what the football person on the street wants. Give us cup finals at the end of seasons. How do you go? Forget all of that. Bear in mind it's Chelsea. Just talk about the integrity of the league here, right? Doesn't matter to us. We can't win the league. But we're going to be playing Chelsea, who could potentially, depending on results, need to beat us in order to win the league over Manchester City. And from our point of view, you know what it's like. You go off, you have a banging time. Take that Chelsea game which we won. You were on the highest of highs, Connor. But when you drop, It's the lowest of lows. So are we expected to go out there having won the cup and really care about the Chelsea game? Is that genuinely what we're going to do? I know that it's Old Trafford. I know all of that. I know all of the arguments that people come up with. But with the integrity of the league, we've done our bit. We can't finish any higher. So is it that important to us? Is it good for the integrity of the league? Whereas if we've got that game beforehand, maybe the integrity is a bit better. I don't know. But
well, that's it. You only have to look at last season. Obviously, we lost the cup final, and then we had City and Liverpool straight after it. I think it was the City game at LSV, which was the last home game of the season. Then we had Liverpool away. Obviously, different last season. You said we were going for the title at that time. But yeah, that Chelsea game is going to have a weird feeling around it. Whatever happens in the final, whether we win or lose, I think it's just strange to have such a massive game at Old Trafford as well. You know, obviously, going to be a good crowd and everything else. Just after a cup fight, it's going to be so weird. Like I said, for me, I wish that game was at LSV. Like, I know why they've done it at Old Trafford, but that should be at LSV.
Tell you what will be nice. Do you remember when we stood at Kings Meadow and we had to watch Chelsea lift the league title? And what's going to be nice is that whatever happens, we will have the chance to parade our trophy if we've won it in front of them.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And so usually I'm not that big on the games being at Old Trafford. It's amazing. It's an occasion. It's important for the team to play at Old Trafford, but I'm not that bothered about it. I would love to see them do a trophy parade at Old Trafford. First of all, because we don't get to see trophy parades at Old Trafford that often anymore, right? From any team. So it would be really nice, and it would be great. It would be a really good kind of way to attract like that crowd, I think. So either way, fingers crossed there is one trophy parade at that game, and it's ours.
I was going to say, and I think it's been going around on Twitter as well. And I agree. I think at half time, the under-21s, the women's under-21 should be going around with the trophy as well, with the league title, and showing that off, because it's been a successful season for them. Obviously, winning the title, obviously beating Arsenal in the final as well. That trophy should be paraded around for me at half time at Old Trafford, regardless of what the score is on that one. Right, we'll round it off with score predictions. We're going for an hour and 15 already. I've not even thought of this myself in terms of score predictions. Who wants to jump on the ledge first with a score line?
I'm going to say 2-1 United. I'm going to say Paris goal. I will say Malard goal if she's playing. And I don't know who's going to score for Liverpool, but it's fine. We're going to score one more than them.
I've got a funny feeling it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go 2-2 or 3-2 to us if we can nick it at the end with a Rachel Williams stormer. But yeah, I think probably 2-2. I think it's going to be a tough one.
Gemma Bonner's probably going to have nightmares about Rachel Williams. She's going to fly in that. What's she doing in LSV? I don't know. I agree it could potentially be a draw. I think I'll go 3-2 as well, actually. I think, yeah, I just see I can see it being high scoring. I think Golden, Paris, Williams. I think on that one, yeah, it's going to be tough. I think we've kind of established that, isn't it? It's going to be a closer game. Or we might surprise everyone and go out there and beat them really comfortably because Liverpool are absolutely shattered after their game against Chelsea on Wednesday night. Who knows? We shall see what happens on that one. Right, we will wrap it up there. We'll be back Monday, 7 o'clock as usual. I might be live on TikTok tomorrow, so come and follow that at allforunitedvids. The Instagram, the Twitter, all that kind of thing is at allforunitedvids as well. You follow Keris's Twitter handle, it's on there, and mine and Barrett's is also on screen as well, so make sure you're doing all of that kind of thing. Like the video, subscribe, and all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of us at the game on Sunday, so if you see us around in the cowshed end or whatever it's called, come up and say hello as always. That's been amazing this season because we've only got 3 more games of that this year, or this season, I should say. So we shall see all of you there on that one. If not, we shall see you guys back here Monday, 7 o'clock for the match reaction, where we'll be talking all things from the game on Sunday. And keep an eye out for next week, obviously, as we lead up to the final. We've got a lot of things coming on this channel and elsewhere in terms of things that we're looking at doing ahead of the cup final as well. So it's a massive week next week. So hit the subscribe and all of that kind of stuff, because you're not going to want to miss a thing next week. So have a good weekend, all. Bank holiday weekend as well. Make sure you're enjoying yourselves, and we should see you guys in the next one.